What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk about this deck that you can't actually play for a very long time. And the reason why you cannot play this deck is because it requires OCG/TCG exclusives both mixed into one. So you more than likely will not be able to play this deck for maybe about a year, depending on the release schedule of having both of these available at the same time. So it's only really available to be played online, but yeah, you can't realistically play it now. I do have some gameplay, but I want to go and show you guys the deck first, because in the gameplay, if you mouse over the cards, they're just question marks for the effects. So I briefly do want to go over the effects. So pretty much what it comes down to is it's Tearelemnts mixed in with Ghoti. So again, there's some cards that are OCG only, and there's some cards that are TCG only, and again, we might not be able to get this in full playable physical card form for a very long time. So starting right off, some of the OCG cards that I did want to go over. I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably seen like the YuGiOh, as well as Kelbeck in lots of like online play. But the Kashtira variant of the Tearelemnts, it's just during the main phase is a quick effect. You can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do get to banish a Kashtira or a Tearelemnts card from your hand or graveyard, then you get some like sort of bonus effects where it's like normal or special. You get to send the top 3 cards of either player's deck to the graveyard. Now the gameplay is actually pretty good by this player over here, because even though he's going to get Dark Ruler no board, a double hand trap, it's pretty insane what they're able to actually pull off realistically in this duel. But in addition to that, I do want to go over the Ghoti effects, because they just announced a bunch of new Ghoti cards, and no one's really playing Ghoti for the most part, except for this guy over here, and he's making it look pretty good. So YuGiOh over here has the effect when it's normal or special. You target one of your banished level 4 or lower fish monsters, and you get to special summon it in defense position. You negate its effects, and then you get to banish a fish monster from your hand or face up on the field. You get to add a Ghoti trap from your deck to your hand. This card, we got Ice Barrier over here, but it's pretty much just used for that effect where if it's normal or special, you get to target one and then special summon. So it's like an additional summon. And then we have Synopsis, the shade of the Ghoti. So it's during your main phase as a quick effect. This card is very important. You get to banish 2 fish monsters from your hand and or graveyard. Just special summon this card from your hand. If this card is special summoned, you get to target a face-up card on the field and banish it when it leaves the field. So potentially, if your opponent is trying to go off for combos, it's essentially kind of like a hand trap if you want to look at it like that way. And if this card is banished, you get to banish a fish monster from your graveyard to add this card back to your hand. So you always have extra fuel, especially in the Tearelemnts, to just start banishing via just, you know, their effects. And then over here we've got Exeep, the Omen of the Ghoti. So if fish monster is banished except during damage step, you can special summon it, and then during the standby phase of the next turn after this card was banished, you can target one of your Ghoti traps that is banished or in your graveyard, and you get to reset that target. So that's kind of cool for that. And then we have the Zep Ruby of the Ghoti. Lets you banish this card from your hand, then target a fish monster in your graveyard. You get to banish it. And then during your opponent's turn, if this card is banished, you get to special summon it. This card is special summon. You can't accept during the damage step. Immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon 1 fish synchro monster using this card you control. You can only use the effect of it once per turn. So what it allows you to do is you can go for Ascan during your opponent's turn, allowing you to basically get rid of another card. So you target 1 fish monster you control and 1 card your opponent controls, and you banish both of them. And then if this card is banished, you get to banish a fish monster from graveyard to re-summon this card. So a lot of the combos will actually be surprises out of the graveyard. So it's a very interesting mix-up for what you can do with this deck. And then the last 2 cards that I do want to go over for monsters here are Shift. So Fairy of the Ghoti, you can banish this card, target a fish monster you control, gains 500 attack until the end of this turn. And then during your standby phase of the next turn after this card was banished, you can special summon this banished card. And then during your opponent's main phase, if this card was special summoned this turn, you can, as a quick effect, immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon 1 fish synchro monster using this card you control. So again, another surprise mechanic with Fairy. And then we have the Paces. So you can banish this card you control to special summon 1 fish monster from your hand except for itself. And then during the standby phase of the next turn after this card was banished, you can special summon this banished card. And then during your opponent's like main phase, like again the form is synchron, quick effect, synchro summon. Again, it usually just goes into Ascan. But the other card, the Most Distant Deepest Depths over here, it's got the effect where you control a fish synchro monster. This card can't be destroyed or be banished by card effects. You can only use each effect of the following effects once per turn. So once per turn, you get to banish 1 fish monster from your hand or graveyard, to add 1 Ghoti monster from your deck to your hand. And if a fish monster is normal or special, summon it to your field while this card is in your graveyard, except during the damage step. Target a fish monster you control, banish it, and if you do, you get to add back this card to your hand. So it just gives you extra fuel for a lot of your combo plays in the deck. Now that you guys have seen some of the brief explanation, I want to show you guys like the gameplay of the Tearelemnts variant of it. Like I said, I had to explain it here, otherwise in the gameplay, it won't really make too much sense because the text is so big on these, I can't even go over it and it would be really fast. So Ghoti Tearelemnts, pretty cool over here. Build by player. Again, the guy's going to be playing some Mathmex. Mathmex, actually, what's crazy is I was talking about how that deck had a lot of potential to be meta, and it actually did top. So, anyways, we got DD Crow, very, very popular card nowadays to main deck. Tearelemnts are getting really, really popular. Plus, there's a lot of different decks that benefit off of the graveyard as well. Very, very good. Plus, it's dark, so maybe you can have some synergy with some Chaos variants. But yeah, Mathmex still pretty good. So he already had double, hand traps over here. He's going to go ahead and use that ice barrier card over there. But it just makes it so you make the monster's attack 0 and also be able to negate its effects. Then you can also banish this card from graveyard, and you get to send a 5 or higher water monster from your deck to the graveyard. Then you get to add a water monster from your graveyard to your hand, which is kind of cool. You can only special summon water monsters the turn you resolve it, but for the most part, it might not be that big of a deal because Tearelemnts, hey, guess what? They're water. And now we have the Kashtira over here, and this is where it gets pretty interesting for the play. So lots of dumping into the graveyard. I mean, look at that. That's like half the deck. So Dark Ruler No More is activated, so no disruptions with Rukalos over here. But like I said with this deck, with the Ghoti variant, you're able to kind of surprise your opponent here. So he's going to go ahead and bring back Singular. He's going to activate the effect of Sigma, and Circular is going to activate its effects. We got the Soliac over here, so he's going to use that effect to actually target effect monster and negate its effect. So we had like one disruption here, although that one did go away, and he stopped it from being able to be activated in the graveyard. So that was another like disruption that the opponent had against the Tearelemnts Ghoti player. But like I said, don't sign this deck out yet. It's kind of a hard deck to play against because you basically have to read every single card of the Ghotis in the graveyard and potentially in the hand if they did search them out, because it's going to be a surprise deck. And that's one thing that's really good with this deck, is it surprises your opponent. So he's going to go ahead and attack over as much as he can. He did have that like stat boost of everything, losing I believe 500 from one of the effects. So this is the card that's really important because this is one of the cards that has a disruption. So this is one of the cards that you can banish one of your opponent's cards over here. You banish 2 of yours out of the grave. And then we're going to also see the Azcan be summoned. He's going to get rid of the Masquerade, and that's going to be pretty much a GG because the guy can't really combo into anything else. And on top of that, he's got 3 cards in hand, and he's got another Soliac over here. So the chances of him coming back probably pretty slim at the end of the day for the Mathmex player. But again, he activated double DD Crow, he had Dark Ruler No More, and he had Called by the Grave. That should be enough to stop a lot of different decks, but the problem with Tearelemnts, it almost reminds me back in the day with Lightsworn, it didn't matter if you just got rid of one, there was just so many like cards in the grave, Necrogardeners, Wolves, like you can't out-resource them because they send like 3 cards, where like, what are you gonna do? Use 3 of your cards to get rid of like 1 effect of your opponent. This deck is pretty nasty. Obviously, there is some RNG with the deck, but I'll give you guys the deck profile. Now, I'm basically going to mouse over the cards over here, but I thought it was a really cool mix-up by a player over here, so big shout-outs to him for this cool, interesting build, and I really haven't seen that many people play Ghotis, but now maybe this will be a more popular variant. I've seen a couple different builds here. This one's a 60-card deck over here, but yeah, it's looking like Ghotis are going to be a little bit better, especially if you mix it in with Tearelemnts. We'll have to wait and see if there's anything else that comes out that is really, really powerful. There's Aranopos over here, which I didn't go over the effect, but Azcan is kind of like the most popular one. But if this card is single summon, you can banish a level 6 or lower fish monster from your deck. And then if this card is sent to the graveyard as secret material, you can target a fish monster in your graveyard, banish that target, and if you do, you get to add 1 fish monster with an equal or lower level from your deck to hand. So you have another searcher, but again, Azcan is the most popular card. And then there's also Gilglim. So this card, at the start of the damage step, if it battles an opponent's monster, you can banish that opponent's monster. And during your opponent's standby phase, you can banish this card. And if the monsters used for material are in the graveyard, you just special summon all of them, but banish them when they leave the field, which is not necessarily even a bad thing because they usually get some sort of like bonus effect that kind of come back. That's kind of how the deck works. Ghoti almost reminds me of like a better variant of like Different Dimension. If you guys remember like any variants of like what is it, DD Survivor with what did they used to play, like Plane Scout. This is like old school OG Yu-Gi-Oh. Yo, Comment like DD Plane Scout if you guys know what I'm talking about, or DD Survivor, because like I'm curious to know how many OG players remember that deck where it was like, I think it was called like Macro Monarchs at one point, but there's different variants of it where they would just like highest banish, and like this is an old school Yu-Gi-Oh, but this is like kind of like the upgraded variant of it, which is Ghotis, because when you just start sending them to the grave, banish them, and then they keep on coming back. That's kind of like the goal, I think, of the deck, but it's obviously a lot better than DD Survivor. But anyways, thanks for tuning, guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. If you want to see more new Yu-Gi-Oh decks in the future, maybe Ghoti will be coming back in the future with some extra support, and I'll let you guys know. But thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next video. Take care. The download will be in the Discord. Peace.